everyone, welcome back to No Sugar with Everything Krause. We are back to our virtual setup today. We are obviously not together, as well as in Cape May, and I am home in Pennsylvania. So if you guys listened to our last episode in our updates, we weren't in Cape May all of July because the house was rented, but we were officially back this past weekend, and Isabel is staying in Cape May, of course, because why come home if you don't need to, and enjoying this last little bit of summer in our favorite place. And yeah, so we are having some technical difficulties getting back to that virtual. We get comfortable with in person, and then like the switch over, whether it's us going from virtual to in person or in person to virtual, is always a little up and
It's
down.
rocky.
It's rocky. So if you want to start a podcast, just know it's going to be ups and downs, rocky, every other recording, and that's just how it is. But yeah, another update just based on last episode, so we don't feel like complete liars to you guys. We actually did not go to Florida last week. So again, if you listen to that episode, we were leaving for Florida on Sunday and we were coming back last Thursday. We got to the airport on Sunday and pretty much every flight was canceled that was going to Florida, around Florida. So we were one of many flights to be completely canceled and not be rebooked because there was a hurricane. Legitimate hurricane happening.
Yeah, like we were like
Florida.
questioning why it was canceled. We were like, oh, why is ours canceled? Like, there's a literal hurricane as well.
Like literal hurricane. It was just frustrating because so obviously we were going to see our sister Brittany and her husband Brendan and their 3 kids. So when we were texting them back and forth and they were like, I don't understand, it's literally not even raining here. Like, I don't know why you guys haven't taken off yet, or why the flight that was coming from Orlando to Philly, why they haven't left. Like, I don't know why they won't just leave. But obviously all around them was complete hurricane and madness. So as we kept reminding each other that rejection is God's protection, and we were not meant to get on that flight, and we were not meant to be there that week. And even our original flight home on Thursday was like a shit show. Mom kept getting updates and on her phone of like the flight information. So we were just not meant to be there, and we have rebooked it for a later date this month. So, or next month, I guess, September.
Next month, yeah.
So that was very frustrating.
We made the most of our week though. Like even though we weren't in Florida, which was weird because I've never had a flight canceled on me, and I don't think you've ever had one either, Gatiri. So I kind of just like didn't know what to do with myself. Like I've never not been in the destination that I was supposed to be in.
I know.
Especially when I'm like taking a flight there. So coming home, we were like, all right, let's like make this week good somehow, make it feel vacation-y, just make it the best that we can. So we ended up going to Cape May for a sister's day trip on Monday, which was so fun. Honestly, just like laid on the beach and relaxed all day, which we needed, and then went out to a nice dinner together and drove home. And then Tuesday we day tripped to Ocean City, New Jersey, and saw Xander's girlfriend and met her family for the first time, which was really nice because I don't think we would be doing that if we were in Florida. Well, obviously not if we were in Florida, but I don't know when we would have gotten to meet them, especially because they will be going back to their home in Florida soon. So I think that was a nice experience that we got to go see their house on the bay as well, which is cool because they're right on the bay. We're such beach people, and the bay life is such a different lifestyle, and it was kind of cool to experience that side as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it just falls in line with like everything we were saying last episode of getting to experience things that we wouldn't normally in the summer. And obviously, like I had taken off, like as Will said, so I just had a free day. And if it weren't for, like everything that's happening this summer, we wouldn't have gone and done that. And that was really fun. And then Wednesday is kind of when it started storming here and the weather got pretty shitty. So I got to go see my boyfriend, stay with him a couple days, and then came back on Friday and got ready for Cape May on Saturday. So we were back in our house on Saturday, and we had a lovely weekend. It was honestly so enjoyable, the weekend, like Saturday and Sunday, and then we all left today on Monday, except for Isabel and Xander are still there. Lucky them.
The spoiled ones. Grateful.
Yeah.
Very grateful though. I will say that this weekend I felt was so special because, like we said, we weren't in Cape May for the main month of summer, which is July to us. Well, not that it's the main month, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We weren't in Cape May for that month, and I always like the saying of like, you don't know what you had until it's gone, and it's so applicable to Cape May for us just because, of course, we were always appreciative of Cape May and so grateful, and we have loved it. You guys know that. But when it's taken away from you, it gives you a certain appreciation for it when you do get it back. And now that we are here again, I'm just a lot more present. Like I'm really taking in everything, sitting on the porch. I'm like looking around me being like, wow, this is what I missed all of July. This is what I prayed for this moment. I'm so happy to finally be here in this moment. And it's been reminding me to like put my phone down, enjoy yourself. Like something stressing you out, put it beside you. You've been waiting for this all summer.
Yeah.
So that's been a really good positive outcome from that as well.
No, for sure. Literally all July. Like we just kept talking about like August 10th, August 10th. Like we just kept hammering home on that date because that was like the date could go back to Cape May. So I agree. It definitely made me feel a lot more grateful and just stay more present. And I feel like it just made our whole family like, I don't know, everyone was in like an amazing mood, and just you could tell that we were all just really happy to be back and feeling grateful for those moments together too. Like it was really special just having each other all there. And as we always say, like we just love being with our family so much. So it was like the first time I really felt like we were all reunited and not like a stressful environment. Like reuniting in Jenkintown in the middle of the summer was like not stressful. We just were all a little bitter at the time.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
you
It
know,
was like
there's
interesting.
different energies that bop around in situations like that. But it was like there was no reason for like anyone to be in a bad mood or like get pissy at anyone for anything, because we were just like, whatever happens, good vibes. Sure, we'll do this. Just kind of go with the flow. Like that's what we are in Cape May. We're very go with the
Yeah.
flow, and like we'll figure it out.
We don't have
And
one plan ever.
yeah,
Like,
literally.
literally,
Like
I think we
I
all
was
wake up
supposed
and
to
are like,
leave
what are
on
we doing?
Yeah, I was supposed to leave Sunday night. The whole time I'm thinking I'm leaving Sunday. Guess who stayed till Monday? Because guess who all decided on Sunday we were all staying the night. So it's
Like literally Sunday at like 5 p.m. we decided.
we're like, okay, yeah, we're not going home tonight, which I'm just like happy with. But yeah, so now we're back. I'm back home as well as still in Cape May. And yeah, we're just ready to get into this week. I feel like we're both feeling very motivated this week. And a lot of it has to do with what we mentioned in our last episode. So, as we just briefly discussed in our last episode, Isabel did spend the week in New York City shadowing our older brother, Joseph, who is a CEO and co founder of a startup company called Radical AI. And we want to dive into that a little deeper because I know Isabel, more than I'll be able to explain right now, learned so much valuable information there. And even when she was sharing everything with me, I was like mentally taking notes. So for anyone listening to this episode, I highly recommend, if you can, take out a notebook, open your notes app on your phone, jot down things that you hear today, or, save this episode, listen to it now, save it, and then listen again in a future time when like you can take notes. Because I truly think everything that Isabel learned and got to see and experience that week with Joseph is so extremely valuable. And I feel like the fact that you had the opportunity to do that is very rare at your age with someone who obviously you're very close with, but you were side by side with him the entire week. And I just think it's really important to share this type of information with our listeners, with people who want to get 1% better every day, who want to level up, whether your success looks completely different than what Isabel is going to talk about today. It doesn't matter. I feel like everything is applicable to so many different situations in life. So I'm going to let Isabel kind of take it home on this. And yeah, if you're listening, I think you guys are really, really going to enjoy this episode.
Yeah, me too. The reason I also wanted to touch on it was because you don't need to have this passion to be a CEO, to need to listen to this episode, or to want to run your own company or be a chief of staff, whatever it is. I feel what I learned this week was just valuable skills that lead to success in life. Everything I learned was a lesson in how to be successful and how successful people operate. So if you want to reach success in whatever path you're going on, I highly suggest listening to this episode because that's what I'm going to fill you in on. So let me just start out with first, like what I even really did. I don't want to walk you through every single day, but I want to give you a glimpse of what my week was like so you understand where I'm coming from with certain points I make. So for starters, as Kateri said, Joseph is the CEO and co-founder of Radical AI. So Radical AI, as I'm sure you can tell by the name, uses artificial intelligence to really accelerate the industry of material sciences. Now, I know that's a handful. I now understand that a lot more after being there for a work week, but in simple terms, it's essentially using AI models, right? I'm going to try and really break it down for you guys. Using AI models to solve research in science, like science discovery, that has never been solved by humans before and isn't able to be solved by humans because experimenting takes far too long to solve those issues. So they are building out an AI model that is going to be able to experiment, use the errors, put it back into the data set, and really kind of like launch and adjust, like really like learn from their errors and build an autonomous lab that will be able to perform these labs at a 10 times quicker speed than scientists can. So really it's just accelerating the process of discovering new things within materials. And the reason why that's so important is because material sciences affects every single aspect of our life, almost from the button on your phone to the semiconductor in the airplane flying to London right now. All of those things are affected by materials, and it's really important that we advance in them, because that is one of, I think, from what I understood that week, is one of the biggest pain points in our world right now, is that we cannot accelerate on certain materials and we can't change the future of society. You know, if you could, like, this is going to sound French to a lot of people because it's sciencey, but if you could figure out how to get a room temperature semiconductor, you could cut flights in half from 8 hours to London to potentially 3 hours. Like, that's a big jump that we would make in humanity. So that's basically what this company is it's making a stepwise jump in humanity by solving this problem. So it's going to be a really long build out until they start seeing pure profit and revenue from this. It's going to be a lot of grunt work and building and fundraising to just get this thing off the ground, because it is going to take honestly a shit ton of money to get this thing going. And they did have their initial round of fundraising. So it wasn't really a round of fundraising. They just had an investor.
Their initial start.
Yeah, their initial start. They did have an investor cut a pretty hefty check for their investment. So they are able to get the ball rolling in this industry, which is really awesome. That's important to note because I want you guys to know what kind of startup I was in. There's a lot of, what I also learned this week was that some startups have limitations placed on them just purely because they don't have the money to go out and hire the best of the best, or they aren't able to make a quick overnight decision and be that decisive because they have to really factor in their budget. So when they had that initial investment check, that gave them the flexibility to really grow and take their company where it needs to be able to fundraise and, you know, show proof of something to the next investors to get more money. So that's like a game changer in their company, which is why I'm super excited. I know this company is going to explode and blow up. Mark my words. I'm telling you right now, you'll remember it here. But I wanted to give you guys that introduction just so you knew what kind of company I was dealing with. And then my week basically consisted of really just shadowing Joseph, the CEO and co-founder. So what I mean by that is I sat in on every single meeting that he sat in, even the team syncs, even the meeting with his president and other co-founder. Like, I sat in on every single meeting. I watched him type emails. I watched him pitch to investors. I watched him meet with the top, you know, scientists in the world in material sciences. Like, I met professors from universities. I really just did it all. I went to lunch with the chief of staff. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I got the full company experience, and it was really cool commuting with him, even because I got to see like what it would be like to work in New York. So I got to commute from Brooklyn on the subway over to Manhattan and really be in that financial district, which was super interesting because it's very hustle and bustle until like 8:30 at night, because that's really when people start leaving the office.
Yeah. So it's like you don't feel like, oh wow, we're still at work. Like everyone else is too.
Yeah. So as I said, I've learned so many great lessons from this week and just tips on how to lead to great success in the future. And that's what I want to share with you guys. So stay tuned to hear all of these tips. I'm going to try and keep them short and wrap them up, but I think you guys will get the point. So the first thing I just want to say is that I touched on the fact that you don't need to be a CEO, but what I want to add, if you are interested in being a CEO or a founder of a company or just this leadership role, like that's what you've always seen yourself in, I just want to say to you that I think a lot of people think that that role comes with a lot of freedom, financial freedom, time freedom, location freedom. And yes, I saw it firsthand when Joseph wanted to stay an extra night in Cape May, and he could make that call because he is the CEO. That's a great example of location freedom. However, I think where people kind of get mistaken is the time freedom, because you really don't get those freedoms until maybe you're a CEO of a very successful company 10 years down the line. But when you're a CEO in a startup and you're trying to build, your job is 24/7. Joseph is on 24/7. He's emailing on the subway home. He's sending emails when we're watching the Olympics at night. He's reading articles before he goes to bed. And like, he wakes up, he starts reading the Wall Street Journal. Like, he really is working 24/7. And that's because he's extremely passionate about this company and the vision and the goal of it, particularly the goal. He's not really passionate about the money outcome. He's really passionate about making a difference in the material science world. And that's purely the reason that he can work 24/7. And I think a lot of people just think that that will be like a lit a fire within them when they get that role. But if you're not passionate about the project that you're working towards, you're probably not going to find much success in it because you're not going to want to put in that work. Like you have
Mm-hmm.
to want to work 24/7. You have to want to be at the office until 8 p.m. You have to enjoy it. And it's not going to seem enjoyable, but when you're working on your dream, it kind of is because you're making progress on stuff. Otherwise, you probably feel like you're not doing anything.
Exactly. And I feel
So
like if you're not passionate about it, like that whole burnout, people can get burnout and still be passionate about something, but I feel like it comes a lot quicker and you start resenting what you're doing and really like hating it. And that's where you fall into a very slippery slope with jobs.
yeah, because if you don't have a strong enough why to get you through that burnout, it's like the burnout's gonna win. You're gonna be like, what am
Mm-hmm.
I even doing this for?
Exactly.
To just work a high up position. So it's really important that everyone understands what the CEO position entails, and just founding a company, what it entails is, you're the head person for every single employee. I almost feel like employees have more not financial freedom, have more time freedom and
Mm-hmm.
location freedom, not location. Employees have more time freedom in the sense that, they can clock out at 5 and they're not going to think about it for the rest of the night. They're
Yeah,
going to
it's
go to that
almost
happy hour with their friends. The
yeah, it's
CEO is in charge of them. He's worrying about all of his employees. Are they all doing the stuff they need to be doing?
they employees almost have more mental freedom. They don't have the same worries that the owner or like the founder or the CEO, the president, what they all worry about because they're not in their role. It's not their job to worry about every other little thing. Like they're there to do their job and that's it.
Yeah.
So they definitely have a little more mental freedom for sure.
So going into my next thing that I really learned was going off of this because, as you can tell, CEOs are very busy. So what I learned this week was that you can be very busy, but also get a lot of stuff done. And that may seem simple because if you're busy, oh, like obviously you're getting stuff done. No, I think a lot of times busyness and hefty schedules often slow people down and make them feel like there's so much on their to-do list that they can't possibly accomplish one thing. One thing I learned was that every single day of Joseph's life, of every single person in that company's life in the startup stage, is extremely busy. They are not dealing with one problem a day and really focusing on that problem and getting it done. They bounce around through 12 problems that are happening and they learn how to put out every single fire. Like that's what I hear about CEOs. CEOs, all they do is put out fires in the company. It really is all they do. Like Joseph was brought so many different problems and he just had to solve them all that day. Otherwise it would have stunted their progress. And guess what? The next day it was still that same amount of problems. Like it was all new problems. So it was really crazy to just see how jam-packed his schedule was, in a sense of meetings 9 a.m. until 1 p.m., 30-minute break. That's when he sent emails. And then back at 4 p.m., it's like a second row of meetings. So when you're that busy, it's like, how are you still getting stuff done? But he really uses his time wisely and effectively to learn in those meetings, to take notes in those meetings, to ask questions. Like he didn't waste any time. What I mean by when I say that he didn't waste any time was that in those meetings, they may have been like 4 hours, but if the first meeting didn't seem effective to him or he didn't think he was going to learn or really get anything that would help them move their company along in that meeting, like he didn't beat around the bush and chit chat. Of course, networking is extremely important, but he like kind of cut to the chase in every single meeting. Like he asked whatever question he had. He cut to the chase eventually. So if it didn't need to be a 30-minute meeting and it could be a 15, it was probably a 10-minute. Like that's how he saved time, but still got ahead on making progress on whatever that meeting was about, which I thought was just super interesting. Time is definitely their most valuable asset. As a
Yeah.
CEO and startup founders, I noticed that they valued their time more than anything. It was like they had a meeting with one people the one day and they're like, is this meeting even worth it? Like, are they going to help us with anything? No, cut it off the calendar. Like, we don't have time for that today.
Yeah.
Just important decisions like that showed me how important time really is to them.
Well, and I feel like that is a big thing that I struggle with when I feel like I'm really busy. I almost feel like I can't make time for all of it, even though all of it has to get done eventually. I almost feel overwhelmed by it to the point where like some of those things aren't going to get done that day because I'm like, I just can't get to it. And like mentally, I've already like felt defeated with all that, the giant to-do list. And it's like, you can be busy and like get it done. Like being busy isn't a bad thing. It's not the worst thing in the world either. Like being busy is a good thing. But I don't know. I definitely am at fault with if I have a busy to-do list or like a schedule, like I will get overwhelmed and I'll almost procrastinate more because I'm feeling overwhelmed. It's like that where I turn to is procrastination, which is like the opposite of what you need in those moments. But it's just interesting hearing that because we always talk about that. We've like mentioned that before, but now it's like, okay, how can I nip that in the butt? Like, what can I do? Because clearly it needs to be nipped in the butt. Like, that can't
Yeah.
go on forever like that. And it's like, is there a book I can read about it? Is there a podcast I can find? Like, is there someone I can turn to kind of help me like get out of feeling like that? And even just hearing you talk about it in that matter, like when you were there, is like, oh yeah, no, things need to change on my end for sure.
Yeah, like that's really what the week was. It was a lot of week of personal reflections where I took away changes that I needed to make based on
Yeah.
how successful they were. I also want to point out, oh, love your Miracle Pod, drinking hydrogen
Yes.
water. Everyone
Hydrogen
head over to
water.
miraclemolecule.us and get yourself a Miracle Pod. It's hydrogenated water. It is the most efficient way to hydrate your body. So definitely check out that company. We are big
Glass
fans.
bottle.
A lot of glass bottle and has many other improvements other than just hydration.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, I interrupted myself there, but basically a ton of personal reflections and also just the reflection of Kateri to answer you back there is I noticed that they really ran off that busy energy. Like they used the busy energy to fuel them to get that to-do list done instead of, you know, kind of accomplishing one thing and maybe like taking a 2 minute thing to check their notifications. Like they never did that. It was like, okay, like, well, that's done. Okay, what's next? Like they didn't even go on social media. They didn't go on any iPad, any computer, check their email. They just kept the conversation going and kept solving the problems until it was done. Like that is what I noticed, and that made them 10 times more efficient. Okay, so next I wanted to get into the topic of making decisions. I feel like this is always so obvious when you hear about CEOs, but one of the number one attributes I noticed about both of those co-founders was they were decisive. And it wasn't just that they were able to make quick decisions, it's that they allowed themselves to make those decisions quickly by brainstorming and laying it all out on the table first. So if they encountered a problem, they would brainstorm on a whiteboard and write down every possible error that could go wrong, every possible way that would go good, every possible like setback, opportunity, like everything on the whiteboard, and fully see the problem in front of them first and then pick a way to attack, which was really interesting to me because I feel like we often try to make decisions in our head and try and reason, but they physically wrote out every possibility. So then they even knew where to like narrow where the problem was and what needs to be changed or what decision needs to be made. And that would allow them to be a lot quicker, I feel like, just from an outside perspective, because I saw them be able to justify their decision a lot more because it was so thought out versus especially in a startup when you're controlling employees, well, when you're in charge of employees that really are trusting you so much because they are taking such a risk to even be on that small of a team, every decision feels really heavy and important because you're making a decision that directly is going to affect them as well. So I feel like it's hard to just be decisive as a CEO and make a decision on a whim, and they feel really good about that decision when they do the research and kind of the back leg work to back it up. And it's not like reading essays and essays and essays. I mean, they have done that, but it's really just like a 5 minute brainstorm with each other, with the two co-founders, maybe the chief of staff in there, and they really like narrow it down and figure out how to move on. So I just noted that that was really important, decisiveness in every single thing within the company, whether it be decisiveness about what they should order the team for company brunch, like, because they don't want to waste any time thinking about what they should order. Like, okay, done, deal, book it. Like, that's the type of decisiveness I'm talking about. It was literally within everything. It was, they were even on a live call at one time and they literally decided on that call that they needed to let the firm go that they were working with because they just like knew immediately in the call, and they were like, I'm not going to waste any time. I'm not going to waste 20 minutes sending emails back and forth trying to fire them later. Like, I'm just going to do it now.
Yeah.
Like, they made such decisive decisions in every single realm of the industry they were working in, and they got so much done in a day. And I feel like it was because of that. Every time I left the office, I was like, oh my God, I mean, we moved mountains today.
Exactly. And I think that goes really well off of like them valuing time so much. Not being decisive takes up time. Like, think about, like, I just think our whole family can be indecisive about a lot of like stupid things. Like, I even think about me and as well deciding what we're gonna get at Peace Pie ice cream last night. Like, we're going back and forth, what should I get, what should I get? And like, we're both just asking each other, what do you think? And neither of us are giving the other person an answer. And it's like, imagine how much time we would have saved if we just got there, got decisive about what we wanted, and just ordered. And I know that's like such a little thing in the what you're talking about, but it is true. When you are decisive, you save so much time and decisions really do go hand in hand. Like, you don't have time to waste, so make
Yeah.
it and move on.
Well, and it's little instances like picking which ice cream you want that is super important to be decisive in, because when you are decisive in those tiny moments, it's going to lead to more decisiveness in those big decisions. So like it's really important to just practice it all throughout your life. I feel like I've been trying to, I mean, I'm literally so indecisive, but I'm noticing that I need to practice it when I'm getting ice cream, when I'm buying shoes. Like, Isabel, just make the decision.
I
Like, make a
know.
decision.
I feel like I've really been trying to be better at that. Like any little thing, if I'm buying something or looking, what I want to eat, like I've really just been trying to be a little bit more decisive. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'm like all over the place, but it's a good way to practice that. It's just like any little decision you make throughout the day, like try and do it and just stick to it and then move on and like don't overcomplicate it because you're wasting your time. Like
Exactly.
it
You're
is
literally
crazy
wasting your
how
time.
much indecision like takes your time away like completely.
That's the biggest
So,
time killer.
it
It
really
slows you
is.
down. It allows that procrastination to really creep in, which is the scary part. If you want to be successful in life and you need one skill to start working on, being decisive is probably the first skill I recommend, to be completely honest.
So, two books I need to read. Something about decision making and something about not procrastinating when you're busy. So, gotta
I
find
actually
books.
have a book that will goes off both of those topics, and I actually wanted to bring it in and talk about it in today's episode
Oh,
anyway.
perfect. Perfect. Third
So
book. This is my third
because it's
book.
their book, well, it'll cover both those topics really, but this will lead into what I was going to say next anyway, which was I wanted to talk about having clear goals as a company and clear steps to achieve those goals and like timelines, like 12-month, 18-month, 2 year, right? So the reason I brought up this book is because Joseph and Jorge, the co-founders of the Radical AI, they make every employee. So when you join the Radical team, before you can even start touching radical work, which mostly startup employees are very eager to do, especially these software engineers and these like material scientists. They can't wait to get coding and like learning the science. But Joseph stunts their work and makes them read a book called Measure What Matters by John Dewar. I'm not, it's Doerr. So like, I don't, it's a weird ending. Measure What Matters. And it features some of like the best companies like Apple, Microsoft, all those companies and their success stories. But what it really focuses on is OKRs, which are called objectives and key results. So Joseph makes his employees read that book and then set their OKRs at the end of the week for the first week of work, for the first month, for the first year, like just kind of really get them brainstorming, but really the first week and first months are the most important OKRs. And what I mean by objectives and key results is that each employee had to write personal objectives that they needed to reach. So if I'm a software engineer, I need to figure out a code that is going to process the atom size of that molecule. Like say that. That's my objective. What are the key results that I want to get from that objective? What are the steps that I take to get each of those results? So they like really break it down and then they make that OKR sheet for that one individual. They put it in a public folder for the company and everyone gets to check in on each other's OKRs. So like even Joseph has to submit his OKRs weekly. So every employee has full transparency on what everyone else is working on and their progress that they're making, so they can kind of keep each other in check and really hold each other accountable to make sure that they're all accelerating this vision forward, which I thought
Exactly.
was really cool. Like even for EK and No Sugar, I was like, Kateri and I talk about it all the time, but we really need to write down like the exact steps that we need to get to, the amount of followers we want to hit before we send outreach for this. Like those are all examples of OKRs. And I feel like if we read this book, our mindset would be shifted on why it's so important to have such a clear vision and goal. So I wanted to say that because I obviously don't know much about OKRs. I saw it in action. I saw how much they utilized it, which was literally every meeting. They checked their OKRs and were like, oh, Jorge, where are you on your OKR? And like he would be like, honestly, I'm a bit behind. Like that's how he would know that he was mentally behind and he had to push. So it's a really good self check-in for you too. But I wanted to bring that up because, as I said, I obviously saw them in action, but I've never lived them out for myself, and I would love to read it and really incorporate that in our life as well.
It's funny that you mentioned the whole like writing it down because today I was producing a podcast episode and the show is very entrepreneurial, has all women entrepreneurs and founders on the show. And the guest today is a founder herself. She started the company when she was 27. And, the host of the show was asking her, like, how did you know, like, how to get from point A to point B, like, just to do what you were doing at such a young age, blah, blah, blah. And she was talking about how she wrote her goals down. She wrote down everything she needed to do and, like, how to get to each goal. And she was like, every entrepreneur who I seeked advice from, whether it was in this industry I was going in or a different industry, but they were an entrepreneur, they all told me write down your goals, write down what you need to achieve and how you're going to get there. Like, what do you need to do to get to that goal? And then move on from there. And it's just like crazy to hear that, because it's like, me and Isabel wrote down a goal for EK, and we had like a little meeting about it, and we
It's
wrote
probably like
down a
the first
goal,
time we ever wrote down a goal too.
and we just achieved it. Like, literally didn't, I don't know. It's not that I never thought we would achieve it, but it's just crazy to see like the one goal we wrote down, we achieved. Like, imagine if we wrote down all of our goals and then the steps to achieve those goals.
Which I need to add, we've been probably trying to achieve for over 2 years now.
Oh,
We
at
achieved it
least.
within 3 months. Like we're not even bullshitting you guys
Yeah.
right now.
It was
3 months.
literally wild. Like, I texted Isabel this morning and was like, oh my God, this is the goal that we wrote down. Like, that was the number. That was what we needed to do. And it was just like, all of it is like, it's crazy. Like, we're talking about it today. I heard it today from a random woman. We hit the goal today. You're talking about it. I'm like, everything is like, ladies, like, write your goals down. Like, everything. My mind is kind of just moving a million miles a minute. And this is one of those days where I'm like, oh my God, there's so much I want to do. Like, there's so much I need to work on this week. Like, where do I even start? Well, why don't you start with what you need to do this week and write it down? Write down
Literally write it
everything you
down.
need to do. So, like, after this recording, like, that's what I'm doing. Like, every nitty gritty thing that I want to do, whether it's like monumental work that's going to be posted somewhere, or whether it's minimal stuff that I need to do for myself mentally, like, I got to write it down.
No, literally. And that even goes off of what I was saying about how they could be decisive. And I want to shed light. I keep talking about like my experience there, but I also want to shed light on how this could work for you guys. Like, take that decision of what I said, how they brainstorm every possible scenario before they make the decision. I even said that to Kateri the other day. We need to brainstorm every possible outcome and vision and goal that EK and No Sugar could have, because we don't know how to take steps to grow and to build those out and achieve our goals, because we don't even know what that direction is that we really want to go in yet, or what the possibility of the directions are. So we
Exactly.
need to like brainstorm and write it all down first to then decide how to move forward. So it's
And then,
just like that to-do list, like Katir
yeah,
just said. You got to write down what you need to do first.
especially working with another person, it's like, okay, obviously Joseph is a co-founder, so he has another partner with him. Me and you are partners in this, and it's like, we might both want big than Krause, but that doesn't mean those big things are the same thing in both of our minds at this very moment. You know,
Exactly.
it's like, until we come to, and I don't think it's ever going to come to like a head of like exactly what it's going to be. Like, there's so many possibilities, and then I know we're going to get to one thing and it's going to lead to another, but like, what is that first one thing, even in both of our minds, right? And making sure, even if you're a solo person, it's like, you're on the same page as yourself, you're on the same page as your goals, like making sure you're working towards that and you have a very clear vision of what that is, so then every day can be working towards that goal and that achievement.
Exactly. Exactly. You need to be dedicated, like what we just said, use your time wisely. If you don't even know what the goal is that you're working towards, you're not using your time effectively.
Yeah.
All right, the next thing I really want to talk about, that was a probably the biggest part of my week, because it was a lot of the activity that I did within the week, which was I sat in on calls, I sat in on investor pitches, I heard from professors at certain universities. I gave you guys kind of that rundown. But what it leads me to is that you need to network, you need to learn, you need to call people, you need to talk to people in your space, in your industry, even if they have 1% of what you're working on, go learn from them. Like, that was the biggest takeaway, was all of these calls on their schedule were not calls that they had to take. They were calls that they wanted to take because they were going to benefit them. So that was probably the biggest eye opener and takeaway from me, because I feel like it feels so simple to be like, oh, learn from others. But I feel like we often go to like books, right? When's the last time you picked up the phone and were like, you're the best person in this industry, what can I learn from you? That's what they're doing at Joseph and at Radical AI. That's what they're doing. They are calling the top material scientists in the world. They are reading their, and by the way, they don't just blind call them. If you're like, oh, I can't be someone that just like call up the best in the industry. Joseph read a million papers by the dude, found out exactly what he wanted to ask questions about, wrote a beautiful email, pitched his company in the email, said, please see your paper here, linked the paper. This person recommended me to you, like threw in like a name that he would know, would love to call and pick your brain. Boom. Next thing you know is call set up on the calendar. The reason that I think these calls are so important is because, like I said, we often turn to books, articles, newspapers for advice and lessons, but really the best lessons to be learned are the ones that come from the people who experience them and who dealt with the problems firsthand and really had to overcome them. Like, those people know how to work through a problem. Those people know how to figure out that obstacle that you're stuck on right now. Not the book. The book isn't going to really relate to exactly what you're going through right now versus Joseph was reaching out to all of these different people who just shed any bit of insight that when he pieced it all together, it made complete sense for them to like make progress on their company, which was really cool to me. And I thought it was super interesting because the way that he went about these phone calls and these like educational learning experiences were just with complete honesty, almost in like a blunt way that was pretty dominant, which I liked as a CEO. I feel like it's important. You really need to be dominant, but it wasn't offensive. It was just like, I'm a really honest person. I don't read a beat around the bush. Here's my question. Here's what I want to know from you today. And, you know, it's of course all about how you set it up and like you have to make them feel comfortable with you, et cetera, et cetera. But he was really just honest with what he wanted. And I feel like it's so funny because in our world today, I think about how we're scared to even call like the pizza place back and be like, I'm sorry, I forgot to say extra pepperoni on it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like he literally was not only calling the pizza place back, but he was also asking for what he wanted when he called, which I thought was really powerful and is probably the biggest change that our society could use is just not fearing reaching out and networking with other people because that's how you learn. Interact with other people.
And I do think it's so important to, like you said, learn from other people's experiences. Like, let people give you the knowledge that they have learned. Like you said, you're not going to get everything from a book. A book can be a great resource, but it's not real life experiences. So get it from someone who's already been where you are now, who knows a lot where you're trying to go, and learn from them. And I feel like people are a lot more generous with their knowledge from personal experience than we allow ourselves to believe that they will be, right? So it's like, imagine if someone reached out to us and was like, hey, I'm interested in starting a podcast. I would love to call you for like 10 minutes just to get like a little bit of a rundown on like what that beginning process was like for you. I would do that in a heartbeat.
In a
There isn't a
heartbeat.
doubt in my mind that I would make that call a 30-minute call and be like, this is everything you need to do. No, send me your email and I'll send you links to like all of our equipment, like things like that. And like I feel like people, we don't think of other people as a resource, but they're the greatest resources to use. People who are already doing what we want to do or have already been where we want to be. And like it's just wild. I feel like that's an amazing point, and it's just such like a obvious thing, but so often we forget that. I think especially people our age, for sure, like our
Yeah.
generation and below, calling people, what? Like, okay, sending an
Literally.
email is one thing, but setting up a call and being honest with these older people who may be smarter than us and know more than us, like that's intimidating, and we don't often do that.
I
Like
was gonna
as a generation, we don't do that.
that's really the main problem is the intimidation factor of a sense that I feel like people don't want to feel dumb. They don't want to feel like they're not as smart as the person they're reaching out to, or that they don't want to come off sounding dumb or like ask stupid questions. And that's really the wrong way to look at it because it's not one, you're going to have those experiences. Joseph had many calls with me in the room where people were blatantly rude to him because they didn't want to share their information. Every time I talked to him after the call, he was like, I learned from those calls. I actually learn more from those calls than I do from the ones that benefit me. But not only that, is it shows me that like what I learned from that was I saw about 50 good calls and about 20 bad calls. And it was like, okay, for every bad call, you know, there potentially could be a good call. So I just want to point that out because I feel like a lot of people, like if you get rejected, you reach out to someone and they don't want to share, keep reaching out. Joseph sent 200 emails on that Friday that I was there. 200 emails just to meet with people and learn about the industry that he was moving into. Not hirees, not venture capital firms, literally from professors learning about what they do for their work and just picking their brain for 30 minutes. 200 emails. So yeah, he got 50 out of that 200. But, you know,
Pretty good
pretty
odds.
good, pretty good. So I feel like I just wanted to say that too, because I know it's often scary to admit that you don't know what you want to know and that you're uneducated and that you do need help. But that really is the way of the world. I think the reason a lot of people aren't successful is because they're scared to admit that they need help. When the reality is, it's like, it's the smartest way to use your resources.
It really is.
That's why CEOs are so successful. They're smart. They're logical. Oh, hey, let me call Bill. He knows this. Why would I spend time trying to figure it out and research it? Let me just ask him.
Yeah.
Like,
Asking for help is not a weakness. It's actually a big strength to have. Like
Yeah.
the ability to ask for help. That was honestly one of my first internships. Like on my exit interview, like of course I asked like what is one thing like you like I could have improved on, and they were like asking for help, asking more questions. Of course you didn't know everything. Why would you know everything? But you never not I never, but like you could have asked for help more. And like that stuck with me, being like, okay, wow, they noticed that. Like it's okay to ask for help. Like you don't know everything and you're not supposed to. So ask for help where you need to.
Mm-hmm. All right. And with all of that being said, I just want to wrap it up on a final note because I just spit a lot out at you guys. I'll let you all digest it, take your notes. If you guys have any questions, feel free to comment them on this video. We're more than willing to do a part 2. There's so much that I didn't even share with you guys that I want
I
to. So
know.
if you enjoyed this, like make sure you comment. I'm happy to answer any and all questions. We're happy to get Joseph on here and talk to you guys. We would love to do an episode like that one day. But I just want to wrap it up with saying that what I learned the most was that you need to work hard for what you want in this life. And working hard looks different for all different people. You know, if you're a 9 to 5 employee, you're working hard in that job. That's great if that's what you want. If you're a CEO, you work hard differently. If you're an influencer, you work hard differently. But the common theme is that you have to put in the hours. You have to be passionate about it and you have to want it. A lot of times, if you have money being the goal at the end, you're not really going to work as hard, is what I've realized. But if you find love in what you're doing, you're naturally going to work harder for it. But again, like I said, the main goal, you just have to work hard in life. If you want results, the only way to get results is by taking action. And unfortunately, that action is going to be a hard one.
Exactly.
So you can't escape it. You can't get what you want by, like, unless you're, which is funny because I was going to say, unless you're like an Alex Earl, who's an overnight success, that people knock her all the time. Like they say she didn't work for what she wanted. Kateri and I were talking the other day. If you go back to her profile from before she went viral, that girl was putting in the work.
Yeah, like
she was putting in the work to go viral on one video.
She was doing her get ready videos like well before the one took off. Like whatever was that, like everyone's like, oh, like overnight she got millions of followers. Like no, because she was being consistent and doing it no matter what the other people at Miami thought about her. No matter how weird they thought she was for doing it. Like, and look at her now.
So that's the theme for pretty much anything in life. Literally, I love Alex Earl. We're Alex Earl stans.
No,
I freaking love her. Love her.
Honestly, do no wrong in my eyes. And we're like very different people. Like,
so
we
different.
Are so different. But I
think that's why I respect her so much.
Yeah, I view her from a business standpoint almost, and as like a consumer of her social media. Like I am a consumer, but I also view it as like such a
influencer,
and I'm like, she's doing really, really good, and whoever she's got working for her is really working well. But I have to give her props for her young age and how she catapulted into this spotlight that she's in. I feel like she's crushing. So
she's crushing it. But that's the common theme really throughout everything in your life. If you want a fit body, you have to work hard. If you want a peaceful mind, you have to work hard. If you want money one day, you have to work hard. You have to work hard. And that's really the point I wanted to get across to you guys, because we shouldn't fear it. We should be really excited about our ability to work hard and work for what we want, because that's going to make it all the better when we experience it.
I agree. I just feel like, I don't know, like everything I'm hearing, I really, really could go on for a while just listening to you talking more about like everything that you've learned. I feel like, again, you went and learned from someone in a potential spot where you want to be, right? So it's like you kind of did the same thing going to visit him that they do when they call people and set up a meeting with people and like ask for information.
That's why I did it. I was like, let me go learn from actually living it out and learning from people in the position that I want to be in.
So now, as well as able to share all this with our listeners, all this with me, and I just hope that you guys got as much value out of this as I already have. Like literally getting so amped up like mentally and like knowing I need to go edit this episode and write my to-do list and like write my list of things and take my notes, like do what I need to do, because it really is all such valuable information. It seems so simple, but it's so obvious, but it's not. It's really not. And I feel like the most obvious things are often the ones we overlook and don't care to dive into deeper, because it is hard and it requires more effort and more time and more decision making and all that stuff. But wow, I truly
that's actually just one more thing spot on there, Kateri, because if you guys think I didn't go into this week expecting to see hard work, consistency, decisiveness, and all of that, of course I expected that. But when I was there, it literally slapped me in the face. It was like, oh, okay, that shit's real. That stigma's real. That's what they're doing. Like,
exactly. And then it's like the wake up call you need to be like, no, like she came in and was like, Kateri, no, we need to do more. We think we're doing enough. No.
And I wasn't like fearful of it. Yeah, I was like, excited about it.
Yeah, exactly. Like reaching the one goal we set 3 months ago is like, that's great and all, but next goal, let's achieve it in a week. How about that? Like, let's do that. So it just really does like light a fire under your ass in the best way. So thank you so much for sharing everything that you've learned with us. Because honestly,
of course.
You
I'm happy to.
You could have kept that to yourself. No gatekeeping here.
No gatekeeping. I want all of you to be successful, and obviously. So
Yes. So, as well, what is one more piece of advice that you can share with our listeners today before they go on with the rest of the day, the rest of their week? What is something that you feel like is a really valuable piece of information?
I would say the most valuable piece of information and advice that I can give you guys is to subscribe to No Sugar's YouTube channel, Everything Krause. Like this video, comment, follow, interact with us, please. The more you interact with us, the more our podcast will be spread out and the more that others can learn from us as well. And like we just said, the best way to do anything in your life is to learn. We may not be big names yet, but we are more than willing to share any and all information. And as we said, you can reach out to anybody and everybody, and that's the best way to achieve what you want. I highly suggest giving this video a thumbs up, interacting with us, subscribing, etc., etc. Please, we really need the support.
Yes, thank you guys so much for your continued support. Don't forget to share this video with a friend. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, Spotify, you can give us a 5-star rating. Apple, you can leave a review. All of that is extremely helpful. I know not everyone is on YouTube and can like it, but you can do things on any platform that you listen to. And every little follow, every little click is seriously means the world to us, and we really do appreciate it immensely. So, with all that being said, we hope you have an amazing rest of your day, amazing rest of your week, and we will see you next time.